Hi, it's Aaron with the Welty Environmental Center. Today, I thought we might take a look at moss. Moss is a super interesting plant that is both a producer and a decomposer. A producer is a plant that takes its energy from the sun and nutrients from the ground. A decomposer is an organism that feeds on decomposing matter for its energy. And moss does both. It is both a producer and a decomposer. Let's take a closer look.
Moss will often grow on the northern side of a tree in the northern hemisphere, but in the southern hemisphere, you guessed it, it will grow on the south side of the tree. Now, in shady places like forests, the moss will grow, as you can see on this tree, all the way around the tree. So, if trying to find your way, maybe not trust the moss on a tree. Here we have a fallen log covered in moss. Now, if moss really only grew in the shadiest of places, we would expect this moss to grow on the underside of the log. Now let's take a closer look at the moss. Notice how it's green and also has these little spindles coming up from it. Let's keep taking a closer look at this log. Before we continue to look at our log, we should know what we're looking at. So let's take a look at this Encyclopedia Britannica image that goes over the life cycle of moss. Mostly what we're going to see on our log is down in the left-hand corner. We're going to see leaves, we're going to see seta and capsules sticking up out of our moss. But maybe we'll get lucky and see some of the other life cycle stages on this log. Well, let's take a closer look here. Wow, our moss has quite a number of seta sticking up out of the leaves. And look at all those capsules at the top. Moss grows at an extraordinary rate. As you can see, it has lots of seta and lots of capsules that will eventually drop spores and fertilize the moss so that it can continue to reproduce and continue to grow. Wow, this one has lots and lots of seta and capsules. Let's take a look at another section of this log. You can see here that the log is starting to decompose, and the moss is doing a lot of that work, turning the log into soil for use for other organisms, including plants. Let's see if we can't see some of the root structure from the moss, or maybe find a couple of insects. Well, nothing there. Nothing there. We might need to find a way to take a closer look even at this log to see some of the other fun parts of moss. But you can see here that the moss is sure doing its job. It is decomposing this log and turning it into soil.
Let's take a closer look with our digital microscope.
Here we have a close-up of moss leaves. When you see a close-up of moss leaves, it looks a lot like pine tree needles. And that's how they stay green even sometimes in the winter, is that they are very tight and compact and are able to save their moisture and not dry out during the winter. Here we have the operculum. The operculum is hanging off of the seta, and it's the little part there at the top of the capsule. Now when the operculum is ready to fall off, that means that our capsule will open and spores will be released. Here we have the Calpartra. Now you can see it looks like a thorn sticking off the top of the seta. or the operculum, the round part at the top of the seta. Now, this part, the calpartra, it helps in the development of the seta. It helps push it forward and helps develop the body of the seta, or the spore sac. At first, when I saw this up close, I thought, wow, there's a small spider leaving webs. But in fact, these are the rhizoids of the moss. And rhizoids are kind of like roots. So this is how the moss is attaching itself to the log and how it's taking nutrients from the log and breaking it down into soil.
I hope that you had fun learning about moss with me today. I think moss is super interesting. All right, I'll see you next time.